I still hear her voice sometimes, sharp, confident, absolutely certain she had the right to say it. "Sir, you'll need to wait outside. Not sorry. Not may I see your pass. Just wait outside like it was the most natural thing in the world." And for a second, standing there with people staring, I felt that old familiar sting in my chest. The one that says, "Here we go again." But this time was different. This time, I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't explain who I was or what I'd earned. I just smiled, nodded, and stepped aside because I already knew something she didn't. 5 minutes later, that single sentence would cost an entire leadership team their jobs. Let me rewind a bit. That morning, I didn't look important. That was intentional. Plain jacket, no watch, no assistant trailing behind me. Just another guy passing through the airport. If you'd looked at me, you wouldn't have guessed I owned a multi-billion-dollar company. And honestly, most days I like it that way. People show you who they really are when they think you don't matter. I was flying in to quietly check on one of our regional offices. On paper, the numbers looked great. Profits up, costs down. But complaints had been piling up buried deep in reports no one wanted to talk about. High turnover, talented people leaving, customers quietly walking away. Something didn't add up, and after years in business you learn to trust that feeling. So I went in undercover. No announcements, no red carpet, just me. That's how I ended up at the airport lounge entrance holding a valid access pass when a woman in a crisp uniform stepped in front of me. Her eyes flicked over my clothes, then back to my face. The decision was already made. "This area is for members only," she said. "I am a member," I replied calmly, reaching for my card. She didn't even look. "Sir, please wait outside. You're holding up the line." There it was. That tone. The one that says I've already decided who you are. People behind me shifted. A man coughed. A kid stared. I could have pushed back. I could have embarrassed her right there, but instead I stepped aside. "No problem," I said. "I'll wait." She nodded satisfied and turned to welcome the next guy who happened to look more like what she expected. As I stood there, I felt something old rising up. Not anger, memory. 20 years earlier, I'd been standing outside an office building in the cold holding a resume I was proud of. Engineering degree, honors, recommendations. I never made it past the lobby. Security told me to move along. 3 times. Same building, same week. They never even let me apply. Back then I was broke, sleeping wherever I could, washing my face in gas station bathrooms before interviews that went nowhere. People would look at me, then look away already knowing I wasn't the right fit. Funny thing is that company eventually became my company. I bought it years later, not out of revenge, but because I believed it could be better than what it was. Standing in that airport waiting outside, I realized history had a sense of humor. A few minutes later, my assistant met me at the curb. She had seen everything through the glass and was furious. "I can report her right now," she said. "1 call." I shook my head. "Not yet. Let's see how deep this goes." The next morning, I walked into the regional office as a consultant. New name, new badge, same eyes watching everything. The place looked impressive. Open floor plan, motivational posters, smiling faces. But the longer I stayed, the more the cracks showed. Meetings where certain voices were ignored, jokes that stopped when I walked by, promotions that always seemed to land in the same laps. The regional director, a guy named Evan, greeted me like he'd rehearsed it. Firm handshake, big smile. "We're like a family here," he said. I've learned that when someone says that too fast, it's usually not true. He showed me around, talking non-stop about efficiency and numbers. Every time we passed an employee who didn't fit his idea of leadership, his smile tightened just a bit. Subtle, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. Over lunch, a young analyst sat across from me picking at her food. Bright, sharp, exhausted. She told me she'd been passed over twice despite leading her team in performance. The feedback, not quite leadership material. Later, a maintenance worker told me he used to be an engineer in another country. Years of experience. Here, he emptied trash. "I stopped applying," he said quietly. "They already decided." By the end of the day, I knew this wasn't about one bad manager. It was a culture. And cultures don't fix themselves. That evening, I got an email from an anonymous address, just a short message. If you really want the truth, check the shared drive labeled Q4. Inside were videos. Executives laughing, drinking, mocking clients, mocking employees. One voice stood out. Sharp, familiar. It was her, the woman from the airport. She wasn't just rude, she was deeply involved. Dating the regional director. Sitting in meetings she had no business being in. Reinforcing every ugly assumption behind closed doors. In one clip she laughed and said they should be grateful we even deal with them. I closed my laptop and stared at the wall for a long time. The next day I asked a few people to meet me after work, quietly. No emails, no calendar invites, just trust. They came, nervous, unsure why a consultant wanted to talk to them. That's when I told them the truth. My real name, I said, is Daniel Cross. I own this company. Silence. Then disbelief. Then relief. I told them what I'd seen, what I'd recorded, what I planned to do. I didn't promise miracles. I promised accountability. I asked one question. If I do this, will you stand up and tell the truth? Every single one of them said yes. Monday morning, the entire leadership team was in the conference room reviewing quarterly numbers, congratulating themselves. I walked in late this time in a tailored suit. Different posture, same face. Evan frowned. Who's this meeting for? It's for you, I said. And everyone else in this room. Recognition hit him like a wave. His smile vanished. I introduced myself properly. I laid out the evidence. Emails, videos, financial records, patterns no one could explain away. The woman from the airport stood up furious. This is personal, she snapped. You're doing this because of what happened that day. I looked at her and spoke slowly. No. What happened that day just showed me who you were when you thought no one important was watching. Security escorted her out. Evan tried to argue, tried to threaten legal action, tried to blame everyone else. An hour later, his access was revoked. By the end of the day, the entire leadership team was gone. The fallout was messy. Headlines, lawsuits, opinions flying everywhere. Some people said I went too far. Others said I didn't go far enough. But something changed in that office. People spoke up. Promotions were reevaluated. Roles reassigned. The analyst from lunch now runs her department. The maintenance worker is back in engineering. Slowly, carefully, the place started to feel different. A few weeks later, I flew out again. Same airport, same lounge. A different attendant smiled and said, "Welcome in, sir." I nodded and walked past, not because it felt good, but because it felt ordinary. And that's the point. Here's what I want you to think about. How many times have you seen someone judged in seconds, passed over, dismissed, told to wait outside, literally or figuratively? And how often did no one in power bother to look closer? So tell me what you think. Was firing everyone the right move or too extreme? Where's the line between justice and revenge? And have you ever been underestimated in a way that changed you? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read them. All of them.